In today's episode, we are talking about Christmas. Welcome to the Must Increase podcast, where we equip you to communicate your message, reach more people, and ultimately increase his name through your church. I am Luke Clayton, your host, and I'm here with the producer of the podcast, Bo Snyder. Bo, it's good to be back.
Always good to be back.
It
is November.
It is.
Finally November. Holiday season is here. You can't deny it.
Yeah,
it's here.
Yeah. You kind of get into October, and when you're always kind of getting, I guess one of the things that gets you in the holiday spirit is going through like stores, like shopping.
Oh, yeah.
And the big thing they're pushing, is Halloween. Mm-hmm. And then, but man, as soon as Halloween is over, it's like discount on all candy, which is awesome. But then it's like Christmas.
Oh,
Christmas,
everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yep.
And some of it starts a little bit even before Halloween, but definitely after Halloween.
Sad. It starts too soon.
It's all about Christmas. And now I'm of the opinion it's actually kind of hard for me to talk about Christmas right now because I'm the kind of person that says, you know what, I mean this. Like, I don't like overlooking Thanksgiving.
No, it's
Thanksgiving's
true.
a pretty great day,
It is. It's a good day.
And in fact, little heads up, little preview, we're going to do something special for Thanksgiving week this year.
Yeah, we are.
Here, that episode's coming up in a few weeks.
I want to tell them, but we won't tell them.
No, we'll hold it.
Hold on.
But so we don't like to overlook Thanksgiving, but you do have to start thinking about Christmas. In fact, you probably should have already been thinking about Christmas at this point, because we know that Christmas is a huge opportunity to reach people. Right. With that in mind, I was thinking about a time, I was reminiscing on my childhood. And, once every, depending on the leap years and all that, once every 6 to 7 years, Christmas falls on a Sunday. Okay. And so I remember it was a few years ago. I wasn't working at a church at the time, but I was attending the church that I would eventually work at anyways. And I remember talking though to some of the staff there about, some things. I said, well, Christmas is on a Sunday this year. It's the first time it's happened in a while. What can we expect? Like, are we going to have people there? Like, is everybody going to leave? Whatever. And so they decided just to simplify things. They kind of just stripped down their Sunday morning offerings to just have one service. They had one service at 11 o'clock. They didn't have any, small group meetings or any additional programs going on. Just one simple service for everybody. And then I think they did a kid service as well. So it was just like one service for the kids, one service for everybody else. And it was like, we didn't really know what to expect. I got there. The auditorium was packed.
Really?
It was packed on Christmas Day.
Christmas? Wow.
And I thought, I wasn't expecting no one to be there, but I wasn't expecting that many people. It was the fullest I've seen our auditorium at that time. It's the fullest I've seen it in a very long time, because what was interesting was a couple weeks earlier, we had celebrated Christmas at our church a couple weeks early. Like that's when we had our big program.
Yeah, okay.
And, our big stuff. And it was kind of like, looking back on it now, it was like, wow, it's almost like we should have had our big program on Christmas Day itself. So why am I telling you that story? Well, the point is this, really just trying to emphasize the point that Christmas, the season in and of itself, everybody's thinking about church.
Sure.
Everybody's thinking about, because really, and it doesn't matter what culture tries to do to overshadow it, everybody, at least in American culture, most everybody deep down knows the meaning of Christmas. I mean, it's in the name, Christ. So everybody kind of understands that it's about the birth of Christ. That's the origins of the day. And so everybody gets a little bit more spiritually minded.
If there's ever a time they're going to respect that or observe it, it'd be that time of year, for sure.
And then it's Christmas and Easter.
Christmas and Easter.
We got the resurrection.
Yeah, we always talk about Christmas and Easter.
And so, we hear those jokes, well, look, Christmas and Easter Christians, whatever. But the truth is that we need to take advantage of this time, because whether somebody comes to church for the first time on Christmas, or maybe they are the kind of people that, hey, you know what, they're already Christians, they already know Christ, but they're just going to pop in as their, if you will, civic duty on Christmas, around Christmas, to say they check it off and say they went to church. Either way, you've got to take advantage of this time.
Either way, it's an opportunity.
It is a huge opportunity. And so we wanted to kind of preview a little bit and kind of talk about just some ideas of what we can do to make the most of the Christmas season as far as from a preparation standpoint.
Right.
Because at this time of year, like I said, in my humble opinion, you should have already started this planning process. But when we look back at calling back to our 7 levels of creative media, Christmas or any big day really heavily involves levels 3, 4, and 5. And that is make a plan, define your message, enhance your look.
Right.
All of these, each of these levels is really, really important when preparing for something like Christmas. So let's talk about making a plan. Let's talk about the plan that we need to make as we prepare for Christmas. Well, you've got to obviously think, a lot of times we think, well, how are we going to get people there? How are we going to get people there? Well, a lot of times you got to think about, a lot of times we can think about, well, how are we going to get people there? And we kind of forget, what are we going to do when they do get
come?
There? Yeah, because that is ultimately what's going to determine if they get there, and also going to determine if they decide they're going to come back.
Right.
And so I think this is a really good time to think about that. And I'll give a quick plug here because we just launched this not too long ago. We've got, of course, our Christmas film packages available.
Yep.
And whether you use our Christmas film packages or not, it's actually kind of unique. There's some other people are doing this, but it's kind of a unique thing that we do.
Right.
We've made these original narratives that are Christmas related. We've actually got 3 different stories you can choose from, and what it includes is it gives you a video to show. It's about depending on which story you choose, it's about 12 to 16 minutes long, and you can present it. It's designed to be presented in segments. So you present a piece of the story, and then you kind of break, and you have some worship songs, and we even have pastors who like to give portions of their segment or their sermon rather in between each segment. And then, but so what I like to always emphasize to people is, hey, these are not just videos that you're buying. You're buying a full service. Like we've done a lot of work for you, and we're basically saying, here's your package. Take it and run with it. Like,
and they're powerful.
Yeah,
they are.
Yeah.
Been a part of them the last few years. They're really something to be a part of.
Our church has been doing these now for I guess this is the 4th or 5th Christmas that we've done. That we shifted away from the live production into the film, into presenting film. And we've talked about this before, but I think it's a good time to remind you of.
Yeah, I was actually just going to ask you.
Of a good reason to maybe of I guess pros and cons of each. Mm-hmm. So I'd say when it comes to the video, the pro is that it's done for the work is already done, the production work. And if you know anything, well, we know definitely because we help produce these videos. Video production is a lot of work. Film production, I mean, we're talking hours and hours and hours of work. But it's done by a few people who are specialists, if you will. Yeah. So in that case, like someone like Bo, who's a great cinematographer, he's a great editor, and then me, who's a writer, and then we've worked with like Drew Shetler before, and like these guys who, hey, this is what they do. Storytelling is their passion, and so you're getting a quality story out there, and you don't have to worry about the live production element. So when it comes to live production, think of all the moving parts involved. Think of all the different people involved. Think of all the actors that got to learn their lines, the lighting, the sound. I mean, it honestly, and I will say this, if you can do a live production right, it is amazing.
Yeah, if you can do it right, and you got the time and the money and for sure.
But that if is so huge.
It is.
It is such a big if, because honestly, if even one of those elements I just mentioned is a little off, the whole experience is ruined. Yeah. If your lighting is poor, then your acting can be incredible. But it's gonna greatly hinder the impact. If your lighting's good, the acting's good, but the sound is off, it's gonna greatly hinder the impact you can have. So that's when it comes to video, just from a production standpoint. I mean, you get the video, you import it into your presentation software, and you click play and make sure your sound is on. And
anybody can click play.
And that's all you have to do. And so a lot of people, because this is, and we've been doing this long enough to where we've heard a lot of, I guess, excuses of, hey, that's not for us. Here's the truth. It's not that you can't. Well, okay, let me back up a little bit. Like I said, one of the excuses I hear is, well, our church is just too small. Mm-hmm. My argument is that you need to be, if your church is small, you definitely need to be using something like this, because you definitely don't have the resources of a large church or a larger church to put on a production, a live production. So anyways, got off a little bit on that.
No, that was a good little trail there. Yeah,
I wanted to mention, and honestly, it's not about using our stuff.
No,
and in fact, we actually say this, and I get myself in trouble when I say this sometimes, but if you're listening out there and you say, I want to try it, but I just don't think I can afford it, contact us. We want you to be able to experience this at your church. We want to work with you to make it possible. Right. And so if helping you and giving you some aid in letting you have these films is going to help you with that, we really want to help you with that. So be sure to we're just talking about thinking outside of the box.
Right. And to go along with it, I was going to say, and we try not to push our products that much, because we're here to teach and we're just here to inform, to help people, think outside the box. And more than us pushing our products, we push prepare. Yeah. Just prepare. Yeah. You don't need to use our things. You just do something that says, hey, we put some time into this. We, early November, we are getting ready for Christmas. We are expecting a big day. We're ordering what we need to. All these things that just say, hey, we are on top of things. That's what we try to get people to do.
Yeah, and you talked about ordering things, and it kind of jogged my memory on something. I think we have a note in here somewhere about this, is talking about the print.
Oh, yeah.
I do want to address that real quick. Yeah. This is the time of year, early November. Now is the time to order your print.
True.
Because let's say, for example, you want invitations. You want printed invitations. Well, if you have to start from scratch, you have nothing, well, you're going to need about a week or two to get them designed. You're going to need another week or two to get them, probably another week to get them printed and shipped. Yeah. Okay, so that puts them, if you get the process started today, the first Monday of November, that puts your Christmas outreach materials, that puts it to in hand. You have it in hand pretty much around the time of Thanksgiving, which is the goal.
A month out from Christmas.
The goal, I always say, sometimes you can start a little earlier. That's okay, but the goal is definitely, if you don't have your Christmas outreach campaign in full swing by the first Sunday after Thanksgiving, then you're kind of late.
Right.
So I did want to make that.
No, that is once again a good thing to point out.
If you're going to be getting print, now is the time to get your print stuff. And so you mentioned that. And maybe
that was good. That was good. And something else I'll tag on to that one more time is there. I think we've mentioned this before, but just to remind people again, is there obviously a difference between digital products and physical products. You can. I'm not recommending this, but it has been done by a few churches in the past. They've purchased a Christmas package film, 2 days before Christmas or the day before. It has been done. Yeah. I promise you, it's been done. So I'm not saying do that. But if you really do want to go that next step and have some physical things to send out, to hand out, you got to be ahead of that even more. Mm-hmm. Digital stuff can be sent instantaneously. That can show up in your inbox, right away. Of course. But if you really are going to go that print route, which is good, print is a great thing. Oh, yeah. So just make sure you just understand that does take more time. Yeah. So last thing I'll say about that there.
Yeah, yeah. So you've got to start, like we said, you kind of start thinking about what am I going to do during the service, okay? Because that is going to really craft the approach you take to your outreach and advertisement. And then, if you're going to do anything print, you need to get the ball rolling on that now. But by now I'm saying, hey, today you need to take your first step. You need to contact your designer, whatever it takes, get the ball rolling with that. And then the next thing we can do. So now we've said, hey, here's what we're doing in our service. We've got the print things going. Now it's great to sit down and start to map out what we call a marketing content calendar. Yep. And so you're going to sit down. Doesn't matter how to do it. Maybe you do it in your calendar software on your computer, or maybe you just sit down with a good old fashioned, one of those big like table size calendars or whatever. And
I love those. Yeah, yeah. I do. I love those big calendars. I don't know why.
And so you look at November, you look at December, and you start to set deadlines. You start to set not even deadlines. You beyond deadlines, you start to maybe set, hey, if you want to get really detailed, and the more detailed you get, the better. You say, we're going to post social media about this. We're going to post social media about this. We're going to, on this day, and on this day, we're going to send an email. And on this day, maybe we're going to, send a mailing out to our community. On this day, we're going to start running paid Facebook promotions. And you just start to map out a calendar. And then, because when you do that, you can back it up and say, okay, now I have some deadlines and I have a timeline to follow. I can tell you this just from experience, because I've been so guilty of this in the past. You just kind of think, yeah, our church, we've done Christmas 1,000 times, man. We know how to do Christmas. Like,
Right.
it's all good. We'll figure it out. And then sure enough, the day of that something has to happen shows up and you're scrambling.
Yep.
And honestly, 9 out of 10 times, the result of that is either, number one, whatever you need in that case just doesn't happen. So, for example, if you said, I did want to have printed invitations, well, now I'm not going to have them because I didn't meet my deadline.
Yeah.
Or number two, you wind up with something that lacks in quality.
Sure.
The excellence is lacking because you waited till the last minute to crank something out.
And to give just a personal thought there is, obviously, I shouldn't have to stress this, but I will just because I can, is if there's ever a time of year that Christ really does deserve our best.
Oh, yeah.
He deserves us to prepare something special because, not to be cheesy, but, he prepared something special for us that time of year. So for us to say, we're just going to, do what we've always done. We're just going to, it's Christmas and, people will show up no matter what. To have that kind of attitude, I'm not all for it.
Yeah.
And of course, we're not saying you have to completely overhaul and make everything, a fake, phony production during Christmas, and I'll get to that in a second. So we're not saying you have to, remodel your church and all this kind of stuff. There's a fine balance there. But if you're ever going to say, hey, I need to buckle down and I am going to order this stuff, I am going to figure this out, I do want this to be special, because next week's episode we're going to talk about, guests are guaranteed for the Christmas season. It's just going to happen. And we already know that. We already know that. But so just if you can just have that mentality of, I am going to plan, I am going to figure this out, I am going to be ahead of the game, because I think you will reap the rewards of that for sure. So getting into my next little thought is, with all that being said, what is, in your opinion, what is that fine line of, we do want to do something special, we do want to be outside of the box, but we also don't want to give, change so much, do so much more extra stuff that if they do come back the next week, then we have kind of gone back to normal, and it's like, oh, this isn't what I thought you guys were. You kind of get where I'm going there. So where's that balance at?
I do, and thank you for the tough question, because
this
is truly on the spot. Like, this isn't in our notes or anything, so I'm like,
out of the corner of my eye, I saw your head go. I was like,
oh.
He's thinking about this one. I am putting him on the spot here a little bit.
Yeah.
So where's that balance of trying something new but not going overboard, I guess?
Yeah, well, obviously, your church has a, I guess, unique identity. It does. Some churches can they can do certain styles of music, and others can't.
Right.
Like if they were to walk in, if you were to walk in one Sunday and you were to see like a new instrument up on the platform or whatever, and you were to try to incorporate that in your worship, all of a sudden it would really throw things off. It would just be weird.
Right.
And some churches are more, maybe they're more they're a little more open to trying new things, and some play it a little more safe. And honestly, there's pros and cons to both. But overall, and this is probably too vague of an answer, but it is my answer nonetheless.
Right.
I would say if you really believe that doing X, whatever it is, compromises and gives I shouldn't say compromises, but gives a false impression of your church's identity, then that's probably too far. And so if your church, and honestly, we go through all this stuff about films. I think that every church should be incorporating media into their services.
Sure.
Obviously, we're a big fan of that. We're big proponents of that. And I could talk you through why I believe that. But if your church, for example, if you don't even have screens in your church, or you've never had screens or whatever, and then all of a sudden people walk into your service on Christmas, and you've got a light show, and you've got these huge screens, and you've got all of this media going on. Well, you're gonna scare a lot of people.
Right.
And
live nativity on the stage.
And that would be that would be a little bit of a bridge too far, if you will.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think if you say, hey, this is so out of the ordinary that it seems to give a false impression of what we are every week, then understand it. But here's another example. If you have a good choir that usually sings once a week, have them sing 2 or 3 times on a special
use what
day.
you get. Use your tools.
If you're accustomed to showing, if you've got the capabilities to show and present good video, show even more video.
Right.
That is not a deception. That's just an enhancement of what you already do. And so the goal is to say, hey, I'm going to just simply maybe add a little extra to what we already do, who we already are, not give a false impression of that we're something different that we're not.
Right. I mean, and I would give this encouragement if you're if you would consider yourself a smaller church, you don't have to do something that a massive church would do. So, and what I mean by that is I have been to a few, smaller church Christmas programs, and that's exactly what it was. It was a small church Christmas program, but it was done so well. I was like, this is exactly what this is them. This is small. It's not a massive production. It's like they did an absolute awesome job with what they had, and it was impressive. It was powerful. So I would just give that encouragement to churches. If you consider yourself smaller, you don't have to put on a 50-piece orchestra play program. You don't have to do that. I mean, of course, it's always good to reach. Always good to push yourself to do something better, obviously. But find that sweet spot. Maximize the tools you have, and once again, plan, and you'll be ready to go.
Absolutely. And it comes down to this. Be willing to try something new.
Sure.
But don't do something if you don't have confidence that you can do it right.
Sure.
And so if you say, oh, you know what? Maybe a live performance thing is something you've been wanting to try. Well, you know what, though? If you don't have a sound system that can, handle multiple microphones, if you don't have a lighting, if you don't have people that can act, then your attempts to do it are going to be weak at best. And so, but if you say, hey, but just like we say, just start where you are. What do I have?
Start where you are.
What can I use for free that I don't have to necessarily pay or do anything, go over the top for? What can I use what I have to try something new? Like, my resources may be limited, but that's what breeds creativity. Yeah, I have limited resources, but I have big ideas. So what can you do to fulfill your big ideas with the limited resources that you have? And go for it. I just say try it.
Just go for it.
Just go for it. Go for it. If you have any bit of confidence that you can make it happen, go for it. And the worst thing that can happen is that you never do it again, honestly.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, yeah. Okay, so that in this episode, we kind of talked about the planning factor.
Yep.
And in the next episode, we're going to be bringing on our a special guest, Matt Lecron. He's our
That's
designer.
right. We're bringing Matt on next week. That's right. Yeah.
He's going to be with us next week. And in that, we're going to dive a little bit more into messaging, a little bit about branding. But by and large, we're going to talk about getting and keeping people that are new to your church.
Right.
And I think you're really going to enjoy that conversation.
Yeah, hopefully everyone's getting in the Christmas mood because we're going to be covering that a lot over the next 5-6 weeks or whatever it is. But
we are going to be referring to that one way or another pretty much every episode for the rest of the year almost.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
But anyways, hey, we are so glad that you're out there. We're glad that you're listening. We're glad that you're subscribed. We are glad that you are sharing and leaving reviews. That is awesome. That means the world to us. And without the listeners, we don't have a podcast. What's the point?
For sure.
So we're glad that you're listening, that you're watching. And thanks again for being with us. Shout out to our associate producer, Jonas Clayton, for his help behind the scenes, and also to the main man producer, Mr. Bo Snyder. And for all of us here, we want to thank you for joining us on the Must Increase podcast, where we equip you to communicate your message, reach more people, and ultimately increase his name through your church.